All right, let's do another arrangement map, macro map, mapping out the big things, or a micro map, mapping out the small things. We'll see what happens. The track is side piece lick, and our goal here is just to simply understand arrangement concepts. So what we'll do is we'll just listen to the track. We'll listen for when new sounds come in, when we start transitioning, when do the hooks come in, how do the hooks develop over time, how does the groove develop over time, and take any lessons that we can to make our own music better and make sure that it goes off on the dance floor, because arrangement is all about storytelling. And so that's what we're looking at here. How to tell the story of a song. Let's go. All right, cool. So let's map this out. A couple things. Maybe I'm already going right into a macro map, but we'll go like beat. And some things I want to highlight here are the percussion loops. So I'm just going to get this kind of like perk panning. Just want to make a note of that. And you can listen to that here. That's right, then left, right, left, right, left, right. Cool. There you go. And then we also have this kind of like vocal that sits in the background. Is that going to go throughout the whole track? Who knows? Let's see. So we got like Vox accent here. And that's just on the downbeats. And the downbeats are the first beat in a bar. So let's just draw this here like that. And that's good enough. Oh, wow. Okay. I needed that long. So right away, these two are significantly different than the first two because they have these interesting effects on it, like almost like a fast auto pan as background, but then so rather than do that, because that might get a little bit annoying, I'm going to duplicate and then just move these guys up an octave. So that way we can see that they're different here. So. All right. And so there's some little things in there, and maybe we could just like, we'll just do like edits. We'll just map that out a little bit right here. So there's kind of like a DJ scratch. There's, there is, like a little kind of blocky clave thingy. I'm trying to think of what that is, but my brain's not working. So we got a crash. So we'll do like effects accent, because that's what a crash is. Crash effects, you could either, whoops, that's not the right color. Effects, you could either go up, right, like a riser. You can go down, which is a downshifter, or you can accent a moment. That's really it. And so a crash is just a nice little accent. So there we go. And then we got a nice little bass, very much in a Max Styler kind of sound, as far as I'm hearing it here. And so then we have that kind of phasery synth. We'll call it phaser up, down, because it's going wow, wow. And so we can map that out. So we'll go like this. So it's actually on the offbeats. And then we have quarter note delays because you can hear it playing on the offbeat every time. So I'm going to move that one up just so it goes up, down every time. And then it's on loop, so that's cool. And then we'll go like this. Wow. Wow. And so this vocal is still going. Let's see if it changes. Yeah, crazy. What an interesting thing. I mean, it's just like, you know, subtle variation and blah, blah, blah over time, but that's just cool. I was telling someone the other day, like, man, you could literally automate everything. You know, you really can. Like, this has some automation. The automation is done through like the phaser, you know, because a phaser is a kind of automation. It's just kind of modulating a sound over time. This has automation on it. Maybe the drums not so much, but who knows? Maybe there's some automation going on. But you could just automate everything and be okay. Some more than others for sure, but what we need to do is just do like full kick, and then this one we'll do like high pass kick, HP kick. There we go. Any addition in the groove? Let's see. Now, like even the tops, there's some tops in there, some 16th note high frequency stuff beyond the percussion, the panning percussion, and that continues. And so we can map this out, right? Because this is effects up, right? We have a reverse, just brings you in. So a couple things that you're hearing there. You hear a reverse crash. You also are hearing them bounce down the reverb from the snare roll here, or not from the snare roll, but from the snare, and reverse into that snare. So that's cool. Another interesting thing about that is, how should I put this? Because I don't have any audio. But basically, a lot of times the snare hits right here, right? Boom. But the reverse snare that they've done goes all the way to the edge of this. A lot of times you could just reverse the snare until the snare hits to accent that moment. But they're just blowing right past the snare with the reverse, and they're just having the edge of the reverse line up to the next bar. So that's kind of interesting because, again, you would think that, or a natural thing to think is, well, let me just reverse it up to the snare because that's the thing that I'm reversing. Like a reverse vocal, you'd reverse a vocal into when the vocal starts. But in this case, they're just going past it and they're reversing into the next bar. So that's kind of cool. Am I missing anything? I might. Let's see. Okay, let's start bringing things over. So we definitely have the kick and with like the full grooved beat. We have the phaser things. We definitely have the offbeat bass. We have this, and there's some other stuff definitely bringing in, but I'm just trying to listen to one piece at a time. Let's see. Do we have the vocal accent here? Yep. Okay, let's hit the new stuff. Okay, so let's see. So you kind of have this like vocal delay. So let's just do Vox delay row maybe. We'll see. I'll just call it that for now. That's just right here. Ba 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 ba. All right, so you can hear that kind of sine wave kind of tire thing. Doot, doot. So let's do like, we don't need the number, sine, kind of like synth, almost Tommy, like. Kind of a weird thing, but you can almost feel that the phase is like filling the gaps of the phaser. A little bit of call response, more of like just a general interaction. But the up phaser is almost reaching for the higher little sine hit, right? so we have that. That's cool. So what else? Okay, so there we get some more accent effects, the crash, and some white noise probably. So this little Vox, I'm going to call this little vocal texture because it seems to be continuing. So let's just move it across here. Okay, cool. And so that's playing here. You hear it's just an offbeat hit right there, and then it just delays. It moves off to the left for a while. I was trying to figure out like why it's going off to the left. Is it just panned? Is it actually a ping pong where it's for whatever reason is biased to the left? But I'm gonna just. So this is the initial one, this is the delay, so I'll just map it out like that. All right, that is clearly an up effect, right? So a little bit of a tonal riser there. Also getting a snare roll, you can hear that coming up. So let's go snare roll. Can kind of describe what's going on. So it's either gaining up or low passing up. We'll just like do creep up to be vague about it. All right, some stuff going on. Let's figure it out. Let's start getting this a little bit more organized. So I'm going to put this up here. I'm going to recolor beat. Okay. All right, let's see. So we got the riser. We have a crash roll. That's one thing I'm missing. Let's see. So I'm actually going to make a track for the crash roll. So let's go crash roll. Whoa, I don't know how to spell. So here, here, here. Classic. Ba, ba, ba. Wait, ba, da, 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 ba, da, 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 ba, 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 ba. Classic, right? Just speeding up the presentation, right? Just like, yeah, cool. All right. Okay, we have a reverse vocal. Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna start making tracks based on whatever I want. No limitations. If I hear something I want to make a track, I'll just do it. So, Vox reverse. Cool. And that means that maybe there's some reverse vocals earlier that I might miss, but let's just see. Anything over here? Nope. And so, okay, so a couple things have been reused here. Let me check right here. So just the snare right there. What's here? Okay, so they don't have the snare right there, but check this out. So here we have what? So we'll map this out. So DJ scratch. So that's just right here. So we'll color that this. Cool. I'm gonna color these exciting green color. Maybe, and let's just color them yellow. Cool. And then over here, we're gonna get a big snare. Big snare. All right. cool. And then that goes like, let's color this yellow as well. So we'll just color yellow like punks. Maybe I'll break down punks in a little bit, but just the exciting incidental sounds. So. And so this is like rev big snare. And then let's also do, I'm just going to call this the jangle perk. Actually, I'll call that reverse. So it's perk, higher level category first, and then the descriptor. So perk and then jangle. Cool. So there we go. There we go. All right, so we have all that. Let's listen right here. Does it have the jangle? No. Okay, but check this out. So right here, all of these are going to come together. So we definitely have the jangle right there. We definitely have the thing, the scratch, DJ scratch, and we have the big snare. Look at that. Look at that coming together. Look at that. Introduce it here, introduce something else there. Oh man, at a big moment, hey, let's bring them all together. We've seen that before. All right, cool. Wow. Okay, so just getting out of the bass drop. So we'll just create like a little map. Maps are always useful to create for yourself, like I'm doing right now, because when you're lost in the real world, what do you get? You get a map. So when you're lost in production, what do you get? You get a map. Cool. So here we have, let's just do, this is intro. This is bass drop, because we're dropping the bass. Oh, introducing the bass character. And then awesome. So now we're going into break one right here. Wow. Okay. Ugh. And so then we have break one, and we'll color this something else. All right, we'll call this extension. All right, so then, all right, so going into the break, what are we trying to do here? We are trying to give them a break. So the first way we do that is we just do high pass tops, basically. You know, like high pass groove, take away the groove in some way. So there's no more low end. All right, next, probably the most important thing about the breaks, the next most important thing is introducing the hooks. So the key thing about the groove is take the groove away in some way, right? And so if they're not dancing, what's going to happen, right? Everyone's going to look around. They're going to feel like an idiot. The DJ is going to look like an idiot and feel like an idiot. So you have to give them something that they're going to care about. And so that's why in the break, you take away the groove, you introduce the main thing, all right? And we've been teasing the main thing over here, but boom, hit them with the main thing. So this is going to be the vocal vox lead. There it is. The main thing. The raison d'etre. The reason for this track's existence. It's a remix of a older track. Okay, what else is going on? So we have the high pass tops, groove goes away. Is that 8 bars? Yeah. And then we have, what else? It's a little bit of an accent thing. Maybe it's just a spillover from before, but we'll just drop it in here like that. Now you can hear something playing 8th notes creeping up. Dun, 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 dun. And that is going to be a lead later on, especially in the second 8 bars of all the drops. They're going to do a lift. A lift is where you lift the energy with a specific sound. Could be a drum sound. In this case, it's going to be a lead hook sound. And so that's obviously a huge lift, right? Because it's something that the listener actually pays attention to. But they're creeping that up. And so the 2 big hooks of the track that kind of like phasey, organy kind of sound, and the vocal, those are the two main hooks of this track, are both introduced here. But you can see that they're being introduced and developed in a different way. So the vocal comes in right away because that immediately captures the listener's attention. If they know the lyrics, they can sing along with it, but it's a freaking vocal. You know, vocal, people just listen to vocals. I'm talking right now. You're listening to the vocal. And so that's immediately engaging. But then the second hook sound is going to creep up underneath. So notice that, wow. Notice the difference in presentation. Immediately coming in with the vocal and then sliding up the organ. Now, of course, that makes sense because for a couple reasons. You don't want to hit them with two hooks off the bat. That's going to be confusing, right? It's the problem of two primaries. You can't have two primaries. It's a contradiction. I immediately regret saying that, but that's literally how my mind works sometimes. But you don't want to have two big hooks being introduced at the exact same time because you want it to be very clear what the listener should be paying attention to. And so paying attention to the vocal, and then at the same time using that hook, introducing that hook, sliding it in so it feels familiar when it finally comes down the line. But wow, it just got distracted because innuendos. But basically, that's coming in because it's also serving as a build element. And cool. So there we go. Let's move on. So we need to have this. This is going to be just like organ hook. So the Vox lead comes in full, the organ creeps up. It's actually low passing up, which makes a lot of sense because you want to open up that mid-range space for the vocal, and so you just kind of have this, the organ playing kind of just the low mids underneath. I wonder if I can show you that. You can certainly hear it, but right here, boom, bum, 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 bum. So the vocal you can see is sitting here, and then this is clearly underneath that vocal, right? And so there's just a low pass that's preventing the mid-range from this organ that's going to come up over time from getting into the space of the vocal initially. All right, and so you could just see the separation of frequencies right there. So just wanted to show you that. Lots of phasery kind of like processing and effects. Again, it reminds me a lot of Max Styler, but like all the, you could hear the nice phasery kind of monophaser on the vocal, which is really cool. And you can do that with anything. You do that with Ableton's phaser. You could do that with Phase Mistress from Sound Toys, but yeah, definitely there. You can hear the bottom of a snare roll coming up. So or rather the top of the snare roll. So the snare roll is high passed in. Again, really smart. Okay, wow. Okay, that's really smart because this organ hook is occupying the space that a snare roll would take, right? So let's come back over here. All right, that's exactly where a snare would sit, about 150 to 250, 100 to 300, whatever, right in here. And so that's already taken care of. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have the snare coming up through here. It's not that big of a deal, but I like how strategic this is. And then here with the vocal, but then you have the top of the snare, and the snare starts coming down. But notice the placement of these sounds. So we're going to have the organ on the bottom, the vocal in the middle, and then the snare high passed. So we have the low passed organ, we have the high passed snare, and that just creates so much space here for the vocal initially to be very clear and audible. But then over time, the organ is going to move up through the low pass. The snare is going to move down through the high pass, and it's just going to create this big mess and chaos and mud pie of sounds. That's just going to be awesome. So let's check it out. you can already hear the organ coming up and the snare coming down. You really hear the snare coming down through here. So this is going to be a high pass down. And so hear that? Hear that bottom of the snare now? Like, listen to this right here. So just the top of the snare right here. Listen to this. Bottom of the snare, top of the snare, bottom of the snare. Hear that? So they're being strategic about the high passing and the automation. Of course, right? Of course they are. But unless you can't hear that yet, right? This is hopefully helping you train your ears to hear these things and be strategic about your own choices. So. You hear that organ really, okay, listen to this, so just low mids. Boom, 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 boom. Now listen to this. Right? Open, right? So listen to the kind of, this is almost now like a vibrato automation. So what there, you could do this easy with Ableton's, oh boy. Oh my gosh. Okay, chorus ensemble, there we go. So drop this on the vocal lead, go to vibrato, increase the amount and the rate over time. And that's what they're doing. So, oh, you can hear that in the voice, right? Oh, you ladies, except I think I'm modulating volume with my voice right now. Oh, there you go. That's vibrato, right? The depth doesn't sound like it's a little bit. Maybe it's just the dry wet that they're doing. Because the depth doesn't sound, the amount doesn't sound like it's being modulated. It just sounds like the rate and then maybe the dry wet mixing that in. But it doesn't sound like it's getting, like it's swinging higher and lower, right? So. All right, let's keep paying attention though. So here we go. This is also, the organ's also growing in the sense that, you know, the space is growing around it. So definitely some kind of like reverb automation. I heard the delay get a little bit more prominent on the vocal, and I wanted to check back here to see if there's a delay on the vocal early on, and there is. You can hear a ping pong delay on there. Or at least a stereo delay. Let's see. It's actually hard to make that out, but it's definitely some kind of stereo delay, whether it's ping pong or just stereo, whatever. You could definitely hear the delay getting louder on the vocal so that it is audible over all the mess that we just talked about coming in, right? So. Okay, so now we're getting some risers coming in, so we'll get some up effects here. Okay, so that was interesting. Just a little bit of a riser into where the crash roll is going to start, which is right here. So you can hear the crash. You can hear the tops come out, so cut the tops, no tops. So. So another riser, kind of like that hollow riser from the Swedish House Mafia back in the day. You can hear there's like a kick that comes in up here. That's extremely subtle, so I'm not going to pay too much attention to it. I'm just going to take this out right there. Cool. And so now this whole thing has been really slow. All you ladies pop, yo, pop, yo, pop, yo. All you ladies pop, yo, pop, pop. All you ladies rock. All right, so kind of a 2-bar phrase. But then it speeds up double time right here. All you ladies pop, yo. All you ladies pop, yo, pop, yo, pop, pop. All you ladies pop, yo. So that's really exciting. That would be just a really cool moment to experience there. Right? All you ladies pop, yo, pop. So let's go like this, and this is going to be double time. All you ladies pop, yo, pop, yo, pop, pop. All you ladies pop, yo, pop, yo, pop, pop. All you ladies pop, yo, pop, yo, pop, pop. You can hear that kind of growing a little bit, so I'm just going to be growing. Grow is just the general term for, like, you know, growing the space. So all you ladies pop, yo, pop, yo, pop, pop. All you ladies pop, yo, pop, yo, pop, pop. All you ladies pop. So this is a kick roll, so we'll just do kick roll. Just where the kick comes in, and then another crash roll. Just loving the crash rolls in this song. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Cool, and then so then the kick roll cuts here, and on that last beat. So to give some extra space and switch it up to a snare. So. So the snare plus, if you can hear it, the DJ scratch. So again, bringing this stuff back. So all this stuff gets teased. So there we have the scratch. We get the big snare, but it's hitting twice here. Pop, pop. And that pop, pop is kind of mimicking the right there. All right. And then boom, just accenting that. So follow the leader. Do what the leader's doing. Do what the vocal is doing. So let's go ahead and drop this guy on here. C3, pop. So just like that. And we get that nice little delay on there. Cool. Let's close this down. Where the heck are we? And then right here, I call this an extension. So a payoff extension. Because this is just building. And then at the end of a build, you usually interrupt that building pattern, you deliver the payoff, and then you explode into the drop. But an extension is where, like, this is where the drop would start, but then you instead extend where the drop begins and you deliver the payoff there in that extension. So you have that payoff extension here. Yeah, cool. Let's keep going. This is something I would caution, like, up-and-coming producers to do. Some DJs get really annoyed by this because it throws the entire track off time. It can also make the listener feel like an idiot because they expect the drop to land right there, and then they're like, oh, what happened? You know, the drop didn't land. And then it comes back over here, and there's just a way you can think about it. 2 ways to think about it is, like, imagine getting alerts from Amazon. Hey, your package is on the way. Your package is on the way. The package is on the way. Oh, guess what? Your package is actually not coming today. It's going to come tomorrow. And you're like, oh, that sucks. Right? It's kind of the feeling here if done wrong. And then the second thing is almost like changing time zones. Your body now has to, it was expecting this to happen, but now that has been shifted over here. And so it's like you're kind of changing time zones. It takes a second to kind of get back into it. But the reason why this works right here is because they're just simply letting you know when it's going to come in. So you get the denial of expectation here, which can be cool. It's like, oh, what the hell? That's crazy. But then there's enough time here for them to be like, okay, well, we're not getting the drop. And then they get reset up with the drop again through the crash roll, the kick roll, and then the kind of little fills right here so that people don't feel stupid and they'll actually get locked right back into the drop, locked back into the moment. And that's the big cautionary thing. If this is not done right, it does the exact opposite thing that you would want to do in a song. And that's knock them out of the moment. You'd never want to knock someone out of the moment. You want to lock them into the moment. And so this knocks them out for a second, right? Because it's denying expectations, but then it eases them back in, so it locks them back in. All right, and so that's the way it's done right. So very simply, if you're going to do something like this, just make sure they know when it's going to come back. Just make sure they know. Otherwise, they're going to feel real dumb. Because imagine like the drop just comes back in and then they're like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to be dancing right now. So they're looking around at other people to see what other people are doing. And they're like, oh, other people are dancing. Okay, well, let me start dancing too then. Okay, cool. Now I'm back in it. Nah, that's not what you want. You want this moment right there to hit. And that's when they get locked back into it. So just set that up. That's it. All right, moving on. Hey, now we're in the first drop of 3 drops. So this might be a long video, but that's okay. Who's counting? So there we go. And one thing I'm going to do here is that a producer, like an annoying thing about payoff extensions that happens while you're producing is now the grid is totally messed up, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set a new marker up here, insert time signature change. Boop. And there we go. So now you can see that the drop is realigned with the track is now realigned with the higher level kind of grid there. You see that? So there we go. So that's going to make it easier on the eyes. And all you have to do is just change the tempo. Or I'm sorry, change the, do a time signature change. Even though it's still 4/4, you know, you just put one there and then it just realigns the grid to the track. So, yeah. All right, let's keep going. So let's get the beat over here. So going back to the beat with the full kick. This guy has a delay. Let's just kind of put that on there. So this is delay. Okay, do we have the percussion? What the heck? Wow, that's interesting. I mean, we'll listen over time, but the percussion doesn't seem to come back till way over here. Now, I like that because obviously it just keeps things open. Like percussion takes up a lot of space in a track, but that just leaves things open for, you know, it's nice and clean right there. All right, cool. So I'm actually glad I put the percussion on its own track because it's not here. So, yeah, cool, interesting. Cool, okay. The reason why I'm thinking right now and being silent is I just had a thought pop into my head that maybe this would make it easier to mix into like a Latin. Like if you were playing a Latin track, you could easily just transition to this because you have that kind of like percussion vibe, and then it just goes into a completely different track. So it would allow you to just kind of transition into a different style. I don't think that's what's going on here, but that did pop into my mind. Another thing that's going on is just introducing that percussion and then just using it as a lift later on, almost like a big kind of callback. And this is where you can really fill things out with that percussion. And so a really interesting thing about this track in general is the subtle development that happens over time. And I say subtle, it's really not that subtle. But this is just another example of something that we'll look at of how these drops just can constantly elevate over time. And percussion at the end here is one of the ways that that's happening. Cool. All right, so we got the beat, the delay, we got the bass, obviously, and let's bring the bass over. So. We have the neck. Is that continuing here? Nope, just in the drops. So So if you hear this sound, I don't know if it's the same thing, the same synth. It might be, but this sound right here, there's a little bit more rhythm to it. So, so this is just delay right here, but this sounds like there's more MIDI to it. So you can definitely still hear the delay, but it sounds like there's now. So so something like this. Yeah, so this note is definitely added there. Also sounds like there's a very subtle that I don't think is this delay right here. Could be wrong. Let's see. That's a little bit too subtle to kind of care about at this point, but let's see. Okay, cool. So here we have a vocal right here, and so this is basically a punk, all right? So a punk is just short for punctuation points, because in an English sentence, you may have heard this a million times, but in an English sentence, you can have like a comma in the middle of a sentence, a period at the end of a sentence, and a period is a more dramatic punctuation point than a comma, right? So there's almost like this hierarchy of drama or something in grammar. And so punks, the same idea applies to like a drop. There's like a grammar to an 8-bar section, and there's these kind of punctuation points. And so the halfway point right here is the punk at the punctuation point at the 4-bar mark. Whoops. And so, or I also call that a P4, right? So punk at the 4-bar mark. This is a P8 because it's a punctuation point that happens around the 8-bar mark. And so the 8-bar mark is going to be a little bit, and so the important thing about punks is it doesn't matter what you do, just that you do it. Like something that accents the moment here, something that accents the moment here. And just like how a period is a little bit more dramatic than a comma, right? The P8 is a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more important than what happens at the P4. All right, so if we play this, you'll hear this is a little bit more of the vocal. All of your ladies pop yo. Right here, there's something at the 4, right? So this is a P8V, so a punk at the 8-bar mark, and it's a vocal. This is also a P4 vocal, right? But if you listen, it's not the all you ladies pop yo, it's just pop yo. Okay, now that creates a call response, you know, but still, this one is more dramatic, right? And so there's a hierarchy built in, but notice that when we're thinking about arrangement and we're thinking about the placement of vocals, the question is, okay, well, I'm in my drop, where do I put my vocals? Well, if you don't have a whole vocal that's just playing throughout, you know, like La Danza, for example, just da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, then think about putting the vocals at the punks, at the structural moments of the track, the 4 of the drop, the 4 and the 8, like classic. You know, you see this almost in every breakdown that I do, and that's why I talk about it. And, you know, when I'm breaking down thousands of songs, this shit just always comes up. It's always the same things. And so it's going to always continue to be like that, right? If you just did something randomly over here, it's like, what's going on? I'm confused. You know, people want a nice, clean, organized experience, right? And so there you go. So we have the vocal here. This is just pop yo or pop pop. This is all you ladies pop pop or whatever. But we're having it edit over here. So that's another thing that makes the P8 more dramatic, is like the 4-bar mark just kind of steamrolls through, right? But over here, we're going to get an edit. We're going to high pass. And an edit for me is just, you know, where you're high passing or taking the low end away in some way, right? You can completely remove the kick. You can completely remove the bass. Those are very dramatic ways of doing it. Simpler ways of doing it are just high passing, right? So Okay, but there's some other things going on. So let's play from here. Do you hear that organ coming up? Why is the organ coming up? Well, of course, because it's going to play over here. All right. So the organ is going to come up, right? So a little bit of a transition into the organ. Organ creeps up. There we go. And so here, of course, we have an edit. So this is just your classic high pass. We're going to get that vocal in there. You can hear the up effects. Let's see where the up effects start. So right here, classic too. So that edit right here triggers the up effects and the vocal. You have very gentle crash right there as well. So a little bit of an edit trigger, something that triggers the edits. And then, of course, what do we have? We have the DJ scratch coming back. All right, cool. So I'm not hearing the jangle or the snare, so it just seems like it's the DJ scratch. Okay, so now we're going to get some nice accent effects here. All right, so let's close this down and just start moving things over. So we have the beat obviously coming in. Bass. Oh, let's get rid of the percussion there. It's not there. Is there any lift in the drums? Let's see. So there's also no 16th tops either. There's no 16th tops. So if we even play back here, you hear those tops, those really bright tops? Those are not here. We're just getting that nice 8th note hat. Very, disco-y, which is very popular right now. And then what about here? So there's a little bit of a skippy hat, a little closed hat that comes in. So a very gentle closed hat that comes in right here. So it's playing on the and a one, and a one, and a one, and a one. So yeah. So, okay, cool. So this is just like a closed hat, and it's basically what it's playing. So we have the synth phasery thing. So this is definitely, and the organ is playing the same, well, almost the same thing. And we have the sine synth up top. That's fun. Look at that. Bringing that back too. Dude, right? As well as kind of more of a square wave than a sine, actually. Just. But this guy is playing 8th notes. So let's see. So it doesn't sound like they're playing on the one, just the offbeats. So let's move this up. You can still hear the phase up on the other sound going up. And the phase down. Okay, you can hear some kind of background vocal ambience and some other vocal chops going. So this is delay right here, just like before. you hear a string, there's a string up there. So, string. So, and there's just like a big vocal reverse. I'm just going to call it Vox Atmos because that's more of what it is. And it's something I really like is previewing the atmosphere before you go into a break. I think they're just going to go a strip here, but like one of the things you can do in a break, we talked about the two most important things, which is give them a break, which is like high pass the groove in some way. So you take away dancing. And then also present the main thing, which is the hook. Another thing you could do though in the break is introduce a sense of atmosphere, a slightly bigger sense of space, because what that does is it pushes the mix backwards. So that way when you get to the drop is a little bit drier and it feels like the mix just comes forward more in your face. So you get this, in the break, you get this backward step, and then boom, in the drop, you move the whole mix forward and it just feels more aggressive, right? Things are opening up here, moving back, slowing down. Things are just now in your face, impactful, and right there again, yeah, in your face. So here, when you're transitioning into a break, one thing you can always do is just transition using obvious on-the-nose sounds like a riser, right? Because a riser explicitly states, we are going somewhere new. I'm taking you somewhere new. A little bit more clever is you can just like use the hook to do some kind of transition, whether that's growing it through a reverb, increasing the pacing, the rhythm of it, so you turn it into a little bit of a tension building thing. Increasing a delay on it is classic. Opening the cutoff on something, kind of a riser thing to do. But another thing that doesn't get done very often is totally fine is teasing the atmosphere, right? Because you can also, with the hook, if you don't have a big hook going on in the drop here, you could just simply use a hook to tease what's to come in the break, either through repping it up, low passing it up. All of that just pulls the listener into the next section, which will be the break. But another thing you could do, again, the whole point of this, is that you can also preview and tease the atmosphere to come. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to use this atmosphere here in the strip section, but this is something you can do. Is like when you get into a break and you open things up with an atmosphere, you can pull that atmosphere in as a transition through the drop. So that's always cool. So let's keep going. Okay, so let's come back up to the map here and let's just look at where we are. So this is hook drop 1 because we're putting the hooks over the groove. And what are the hooks? Well, we got that phasery thing. It's kind of open because this whole break is just mainly vocal hook, and then this is a break from the vocal, but with some cool sound design stuff. And so the basic structure of the drop, and this will kind of continue, is that we're going to get this nice groove, we get that phasery sound, and then we lift in the second 8 bars with the organ hook here. And so that's kind of the development of what's going to happen in every drop, but with more and more elevations. And just as a very almost pedantic and semantic thing, when I say a lift, that's usually referring to inside of a drop, right? So if we're here in the 8-bar section, I'm going to lift the energy of the drop with a sound in like the second 8 bars. But when we're lifting, and that's not for me the correct terminology, but again, this is just me making terms up and using them to try to explain what's going on. But when we're going from one section to another, that's not a lift for me because I'm trying to just be precise with the language here. And so when we take a sound and use that sound to make the next section, the next drop even bigger, I call that an elevation. We're elevating one section over another section. So the second drop here, when we get another sound or something that makes this even bigger or more exciting than one came before, that would be an elevation. A lift is, for me, again, these are not terms that everyone uses, but for me, a lift usually refers to when we're lifting a sound within a drop itself, all right? So just this allows us to be a little bit more precise. But of course, if anybody else uses those terms, they could be using them completely differently, you know? So just a heads up on that. So let's keep going. All right, so this is now getting into break. Let's see where's the drop start. Cool. So here we go. And so this is going to be, yeah, man, I'm tempted to call this a main break and build, but I'm not going to. We'll just call this break 2. Cool. So this is break 1. This is break 2. And then, so let's see what we got. So this is cool because one of the things we talked about in break 1 is giving them a break. Now, this is a very abrupt way of doing it, but this is the classic way to pretty much 95% of the time, the way you're going to do it in break 1 is just high passing because you don't want to kill the groove. People are still learning the way the groove feels in this track, and so you don't want to kill that. And so just high passing into break 1 is classic, but you're stepping down the energy. When we're going in from here to here, where we're going from a higher state of energy down to a low state of energy, you can stage the stepping down, right? So this is the first stage. You're taking away like the tops. And this is a classic way to do it, is when you're going down deeper into a break, you want to move that energy down. You want to settle the energy over time, and you can stage it. And so here, this is high energy. This is now a step down in energy because you're removing all the top end energy, but you're keeping the low end. So that's what I call a strip. A strip is just kick, bass, and then a hook on top or some atmosphere, whatever, but it's mostly just breaking it down to kick and bass. All right, and that is a step down from here, and then here is another step down, right? So we're going from that low end energy to removing the low end energy. That is a step down. Now, they're pulling us right back in with snare rolls and stuff, but yeah, so is this 24 bars? Oh, okay, there we go. I thought it was 32 for some reason, but yeah, this is 24. And so sometimes if you were going to do a 32 bar break, you would do that extra step down. And so, for example, if I got an EQ and we would put this here, and I'm just going to go like this, and then we can go jump up to 120. Turn this off and then on. So we'll go like this. So for example, here would be another step down. Right? You can feel how that's a step down, right? And so that's something classic to do. Here, they're stepping down they're removing the low end. What the hell is going on? Okay. Okay, cool. And so they're stepping down here. They step down here because they remove the low end, but then they immediately start pulling us into the next section with the snare roll. All right, but let's get back to actually mapping this out. So here we go. So this is just kick and bass. So typical strip. And then going back into the main vocal here, of course. Oh, hold up. No. This is a different one. Neck, back. So the square thing is still going? You can hear some Atmos back there, right? So I'm just going to carry this over. And this will just like creep up here. And then it's just kind of just this bed in the background. Yeah, it definitely is this coming up. See, so they were, in fact, previewing the atmosphere that's going to sustain here through the strip. And we forgot to do the vocal right here. So, call this rep. So this is your rep right here. Oops, not letting me do it. There we go. And so there's that kind of just almost like this sine atmos coming up here. And so let's see. So string goes away. The string almost sounds like it's, it might not be a string. It almost sounds like it's bit crushing harmonics on top. But, nah, definitely a string. You can hear it right here. Okay, but that's not here. But then we have this kind of sine atmos coming up here. You see it right through here, right? Right there. So you can see it just starting to come up, and then gets louder and louder and more aggressive. There you go. Maybe that's actually the atmosphere right here. Ah, yeah, so this gets more aggressive. So I'm going to delete the sine atmosphere because this is the same thing. It just starts here and then it gets more aggressive. But it's not a vocal atmosphere. I'll call it sine atmosphere. So, and it's playing on off notes or off beats. So there we go. A little bit of a P4. Did you hear that? A little bit of drums. Right? Tiny little drums right there. P4. P4. Okay, so we're getting some up effects here. So that is a reverse. That's going to be like a reverse crash. And then you can also hear some of the drums coming up as well. Maybe I should actually put that on the actual drums right here. So drums a little bit. And then of course we have the DJ scratch right there. All right, cool. I hope you can see how structural this is. What's that? That's a P4. What's this? That's a P8. What's this? It's a P8. What's this? Drums. It's P4. What's this? It's a P8. Like, same things all the time. Doesn't matter what you do, right? Because that's the unique part of it, like how you decide to do it. Punk is just a high-level concept. It's just it's just saying like there's a structure to the drops. How you execute that structure is up to you, right? That's the unique part of it. But it's there. It's done. Always. All right, so let's now figure this out. So now we have the full, so this is just high pass beat. We'll just do HP beat. Snare, cool. So now we have the vocal texture thing, or the sine atmos thing, full on. So just call this full. Is this playing? Let's see. I can't hear it. Like, it might be masked. It's probably not playing, but... All right, all these pop like this. This is a Vox rep, right? One of the classic ways to build tension is just to rep the vocal. So Vox rep LP up, even more classic, just like low passing it up over time. There's this cool bit crushed clap playing. Really weird, but cool. So wait a minute, that's not the clap. That's actually the vocal from back here, the Vox accent, this thing. Neck. So, yeah. Yeah, that's the neck vocal, just the top end of the vocal there. Wow. There's also, you can hear this phasey thing going on too. Like it's hard to say exactly where all this is happening, if these are on the same sound or different sounds. I suspect different sounds, but you could hear this, especially as we get over here. So I'm going to get the phasey thing in here and see if this lines up to what's going on. Let's see. Yeah, it is. You can see that, you can hear the phasey thing lining up. So it goes up here or down here. So all right, cool. So there we go. And then we will duplicate this. So let's see what happens. So let's just check it off. So we got that beat. This says BP. Let's put HP instead of BP. Might have been bothering some of you. So yeah, there's something more going on with this for sure. Like, there's just more notes. You can hear the more, you could hear the up and down of the phaser being, you could just hear it more. So I think there's just more notes going on with this. Yeah, it's getting out of control here in a good way, but like, this is just, I'm just going to write more notes and then like more intense. So definitely some up effects right here. So drums go away right there, and that's like, sometimes I call this weighing anchor. Weighing anchor, especially when it's the kick. When you remove the kick is the anchor of the track. And so like when you're at C, and you pull up the anchor of the ship's just now floating. It's called weighing anchor. So this is just removing the anchor of the track. The track is just floating now. And so it makes it so much more satisfying in such a moment when it explodes into the drop again, because then you get the anchor of the track back. All right. And so this is a really cool technique to create a lot of tension. You're literally removing probably the most fundamental thing in the track, and the track is now just floating. There's probably an even better way to describe that, but it just, there's no foundation. Yeah. Okay. There you go. You can hear this right here now. So this is goes down. So it might even just actually be continuing, because So then we have the Vox lead, and then we have the crash roll right here. Do we have a crash roll? Yep. What about back here? All right, so then we have the double snare there. So that is where? Where is the double snare? Here it is. Cool. So let's bring this guy over. Let's bring the double snare from over there to over here. Okay. Okay. Okay, cool. So what do we got? So we have the just building pattern, right? Building through what? Through rep, roll, rise, grow. So repetition on the hook. All you ladies, pop-yo, 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 low passing up. We've got the snare roll. We've got the crash roll. Rise. We've got risers here. We have this sound getting more intense, actually. So more intense. Might even be pitching up. Maybe that's a different riser. Who knows? But we've got risers, and then we're growing the space. Are we growing the space? Let's see. Maybe. I'm sure there's some reverb automation or something going on back there. And then we cut to, right, the building pattern, and then pipo. So pattern interrupt payoff is something that we talked about a little bit before without mentioning the term, but pipo is pattern interrupt payoff. We have the building pattern. That pattern gets interrupted. And when that pattern gets interrupted, like you could feel it. It's like, whoa. Like everyone pays attention, and when everyone's paying attention, you deliver the payoff. So pattern interrupt, payoff, and then you explode into the drop, right? And so the vocal here is the payoff, and then you have like the fills and stuff that bring you back in, that kind of recount things so that people can expect that downbeat. So. All right, and now we're into drop 2. Wow, this is going to be a long one, but let's go to drop 2 here. So now we're going into a strip, and this is an elevation over the first drop, mostly because the first drop didn't have it. We're just kind of introducing the groove and the full development kind of. So back here in the I mean, it's funny, this one has more going on, but this one just feels more assertive. But here, if we come over to this drop right here, we're going to get that big entry. Over the strip. So let's map that out. So. So let's put like entry. Let's do synth entry. So this is a delay right here. So we'll put some delay. So accent effects for sure, right here, and then pop, pop, pop. And And then you can hear one, so that's an elevation in itself, just going into a strip because it's exciting. Like it's kind of, it's meeting and denying expectations at the same time, because you're meeting expectations by landing on time, delivering the package on time, unlike back here. But you're also denying expectations because you're not giving them the full drop, but they know they're going to get the full drop. And so it makes it that much more exciting because it builds just that much more anticipation for it. Another thing that's going on here, another elevation beyond the strip, is that we're getting the full organ hook on top of the strip, right? And so we also have the neck vocals going on, or the accents here. And here we're getting tops without the clap. And so as soon as that clap comes in at 109, man, that is a satisfying moment. So let's just do like offbeat tops. Offbeat tops, no clap. Cool. One other thing I hear in here is that they're starting to bring the 16ths back in. So back over here, no 16ths. No 16ths except for a very small closed hat, but right here you can hear the 16ths coming in. And so they're definitely playing the 16ths here, but they're also doing something else. So a lot of cool stuff in this track in terms of arrangement development. This is really, really well done. And so, yeah, some more things to talk about in this next 8 bars, but let's make sure we have everything we need here. Let's see. We need the square synth, so let's get that guy. So that's why it's important sometimes to just systematically go down the line in terms of what we need here. So beat, yes, bass, the phaser, probably. Let's see. Yep, you can hear that. So, and the thingy. And guess what? Of course, man. Of course. So let's get this whole thing right here, because we get the punk structure, the vocal punks. There's a little bit of an entry here on a synth, like there's a sound underneath the organ. It's subtle, but it's a very aggressive kind of sound, like, and then it goes away. I'm gonna map that because that's cool. That's a nice little detail there, right? So this is a P4 entry, kind of like an aggro synth. Man, that's subtle. It'd be so easy in a mix to make that super loud, but they're just keeping it super subtle. That's cool. All right. So, of course, here we have an edit. This is just a high pass, P8, right? Always. And then here we have All You Ladies Pop Yo. And then we have the DJ scratch. So let's, over here. So we're going to get that entry again over here. This is an octave up, right? So that's the difference. So this is now full groove, right? So we're getting the clap. So that's a lift. Okay, so this is a good place to talk about lifts and elevations. Let's just talk about lifts. Let's look at the lifts. And again, lifts are when things are inside of a drop for me, like when I use the term. So here, obviously, we're getting the full groove. That's a lift because we're getting the claps. We're also getting the 16ths from earlier, okay? Now, I guess, yeah, we're just going to talk about elevations too at the same time. So having the 16ths in here is an elevation over this drop because this one did not have 16ths. And let's just color these a little bit better colors so that I know exactly where I am. So, and we'll go back here, and we'll go over here to red, and we'll go here to brown. There we go. Okay, cool. So the 16th right here is an elevation over this drop because this one doesn't have it. But there's also now a massive elevation going on over here that wasn't in the other drop. It's also a lift in the drop. So this is the ride, right? Massive little ride on top. Massive little. Interesting. Okay, so let's go like this. So obviously the organ hook, which I'm calling it. Let's see if we have this, which we probably do. The square synth. Yep. Okay, we also have this. We can hear the Atmos coming in again, bringing us over to here probably. But so let's see if we can hear the phasey. Probably over here more. Yep. There it is. Okay, and then let's go to these accents for sure are playing. These are the neck. You can probably hear it right here. Yep, you can hear that. You can hear these are subtly panning, not fully 100 left, 100 right, or 50 left, 50 right, but they're, you know, within like 20 or 30. And then let's just copy this over right here because the punk structure is going to continue. And that little entry, this little P4, comes over here as well. Wow, that's cool. Okay, what about over here? So that's, I don't know why I'm calling it an entry. It's really just a P4 because an entry is a P1 if you think about it. This is just a P4. Subtle. Again, it doesn't matter what you do, only that you do it. And you can see this here. Like, I just point. Like, look at the screen, you know. Do this. Like, all right. All right, we got that Atmos, so I'm just going to call this Synth Atmos. There we go. And this guy is creeping up again over here. We have a crash right here, so I'll just put an accent effect. Oh, and then we had the big, this one. Is that over here? Yeah, okay, cool. Did I miss the punks right here? No, there's no punks right here. That's cool. Nah, there's definitely some kind of chops going on here. Vox, a low chop. Just everything accenting the offbeat in this track. So, right here. Almost sounds like he or she is saying dope. That's what it sounds like. There's also the there's also a pop chop. So we'll go Vox, chop, pop. Because here's the pop delay, but that fizzles out. But you can still definitely hear that pop playing. So And it's kind of interacting with this dope a little bit, this dope chop. We're jumping back and forth, but that's okay. We're figuring it all out. So actually, this guy sounds like he's just playing on the beats. So on the claps. So let's go to quarter notes here and you can definitely hear that, those chops right there. So that is an example of a lift in this first drop here with these vocals. Okay, let's see what's going on over here in HD2. Do we have those same chops? Let's see. No. But we do have these vocal punks. All right, cool. P4. So I'm going to take this little atmosphere thing and I'll go pitching up because it's pitching up. All right, so we have the neck back rep again over the strip. So we can bring this over here, kick, and then bass. So cool. We have some accent effects here like that. Notice how this is almost an octave lower, right? So this pitching up, so this is high Atmos now. And we can call this like, hear that? But that pitched up through here, so now this is a higher atmosphere. So this, in a way, is an elevation. Almost a literal interpretation of elevation, because the sound has been elevated to a higher pitch. See it? Listen. So if I go maybe here. So again, just repeating that structure, the rep right there. Okay, cool. So this is a definitive step up in the drums, right? So so here the low end is going down. Okay. So tops, we've got tops right here, and then, whoops. And then we have the rep back here, so let's get this rep right here. But this has a vibrato automation. You hear the up effects coming, so you can hear that riser in the background. We got some accent effects right here. What about any up effects here? Yep, we got a reverse crash right there. This thing also kind of swells or something similar to it. So and then the neck vocal comes in. So where is that guy? This. Cool. All right. Ah, we have the snare roll, of course. Let's listen for that. So same as before, this is high passing down. Just creating that mid-range space for the vocal. This is like this weird seagull sounding thing. Woo, woo. All right, so snare roll gets bigger, right? Still high passing down. We got the beat. Did anything change in the beat? Not really. Vocals continuing. Let's just push it to the edge. This probably keeps going. Anything in the synths? Not hearing anything in the synths. So getting a big break from the synths right here, because can you imagine what's going to happen over there? All right. And so here in this break, big, very aggressive on that Atmos right there. And then here we get the phaser. All right, so let's keep going over here. So no synths. Some weird low frequency stuff going on down here. You can hear that, like, I can't really see it that well, but you hear that riser, definitely some kind of vibrato, LFO riser going on. It sounds like they're taking, it doesn't sound like Spectral Blur and Ableton. Maybe it is Spectral Blur and Ableton, but it sounds like they're taking something that's just turning it into like just a monotone robot kind of voice on the sides, and then putting the vibrato automation on that. So there's another vocal on the sides. It's a little bit lower, and it's playing the exact same part, like All You Ladies Pop Like Pop, but it's a layer, and they're putting a vibrato automation on that. So I'm going to map that. So let's see. So this is going to be like Vox, low, monotone, then vibrato, right, thing. I don't know. So let's see. You could definitely hear that there, like that lower layer on the vocal. You can hear it there as well. And so this is just the vibrato just gets faster or more pronounced. Let's see what happens. It also sounds like it's pitching up too. So either the rate automation, pitch, so. Okay, so here we're removing the tops. Okay, and then we're getting that crash roll like before, so almost they're getting a kick roll now. Ah man, it's also a kick roll. It could be a kick roll, but also sounds like, dude, they are just smashing the bottom of that snare. So I'm just gonna put a kick roll, right? Because it could be a kick roll and just like super high pass, but let's see. So here you go. Yeah, it's a kick roll. Yeah, the bottom of the snare roll is opening up and just getting smashed. So the decay on snare is increasing. something like that. And then we're breaking down the rep here to just pop. So this is now a pop rep. So this is absolutely the peak build right here, because we're just like, we got kick rolls, snare rolls, we've got a faster rep on the vocal, because back here you have a rep, but it's still just all you ladies. And I'm wrong. I love being wrong, because then that means I get to fix it. So here, this is breaking down to pop again. So this is just a pop rep. Cool. All right. All right, sweet. Nice. But here, if I'm, okay. Okay, so same thing, right? If you wanted to elevate this over here, then you could just have an 8-bar pop reps, because then it's just like, you know, this one only goes for 4 bars here, right there, just kind of like over here. But yeah, it just, if you had it for 8 bars, it just builds even more tension. All right, cool. And then let's cut and go like this. Okay, cool. And then we have the kind of kick thing going on. Did we have that before? I remember hearing that before somewhere. Right here. Yep. And so in this time, we don't have the, whatchamacallit, we don't have the fade up, or the, it doesn't just creep in. Instead, it's, whoops. So instead, it just comes in hard, right? So like this. So then we have the double snare. So let's see. Okay, let's put the double snare in. So C3, although it doesn't matter at all. And then we don't have the jangle here. And then the crash roll continues here. And we have the all you ladies right here. All right, now this is an elevation over the second hook drop, because, hook drop 2, because we get the full explosion, right? So this one, we get the big entry and the organ comes in. So let's look at the elevation, because this is, I used to call these hook and lift maps. It's all about how the hooks really develop. If I'm going to boil it down to one thing, how do the hooks develop in the track? Because the groove just goes up and down. Sometimes they high pass it, you know, goes away, comes back, like, but the hooks, how do the hooks develop? So here in the first drop, we just mostly get groove, right? A little bit of the phasey thing, but then we get a lift, a hook lift in the second 8 with the organ hook. Here in the second drop, we get the organ hook right away, but it's over a strip. And we get the big entry. And then in the second 8 bars, we get the full groove. And so that's a lift here. But it's an elevation because we're getting the organ throughout the entire drop, and we get that new sound, which is the entry. All right, so those are just really big lifts, right? Those are the highest impact moves made in the track, right? Okay, cool. And then in this last one, it seems like we're getting a similar structure to the second drop, but it's an elevation over the second drop because we're not dropping into a strip. We get the full development of everything. We get the full drums. And I think we're also going to get the percussion that was introduced earlier, you know? So that's not the hooks, that's obviously the groove, but it's still an elevation. But let's pay attention to if there's any elevation going on here with the hooks. That groove move right here where you're bringing in the full groove, that might be enough, you know? But let's just check it out. Let's just see what's done over here to just complete the full development of the track. Take us to the absolute climax of everything. So let's see. So let's get the entry here. Let's bring all of these guys over because I suspect they're going to be there. What's this? We obviously need the bass. We need the full beat, full groove here. And then what else? So, okay. Another huge elevation here over the second drop is the ride comes in right away. Big move, you know, like, oh, it's just a ride. No, it's from an experience point of view, from the listener, huge move, super high impact. You know, it's not just bringing the ride over. Like, you have to think about what these are doing in terms of the experience of the listener. That's huge. Like, you're lifting the energy. Like, the track is as tall as it's ever been, as energetic as it's ever been, right? Big moves. Okay, so we're getting a pop delay, so that's an elevation, because now we're getting a faster presentation of the hooks. You can call this a bump in energy. So we get here the entry in the first drop, or second drop rather. And then here we're going to get an entry like that, but then we're going to get another sound after it that just lifts the energy even more, right? And then we get that kind of really noisy synth to accent that pop delay. And so both of those kind of fizzle out. So we'll have kind of like synth, noise, accent, which is kind of like just right here, just accenting. Yeah, that's what we'll call it. Just a very noisy kind of sound. And then, of course, we have the vocal texture with the neck repeating. So that comes over here. Get some accent effects down here. Cool. All right, are we getting these synths here? Let's check it. Yeah. Okay, but this guy's coming up here. We're not really getting this organ here. This creeps up through the second half. So let's creep. And okay, man, a lot of stuff going on in here. So a lot more spot sounds, a little bit more ear candy going on. Keeping the same kind of structure and main ingredients here, but a little bit more excitement with the additional sounds. So let's map all those out. So even keeping myself organized here, right? So breaking this stuff down, like obviously organizing what we're hearing, but organizing the presentation of what we're hearing. Like, let's break it down. So what we need to do is start with the main things, and then let's break down the kind of incidental sounds. So let's just make sure these guys are coming in. So yeah, this sound is definitely in there. This is in there. This one creeps up. One thing we have to bring in is the percussion. So this percussion comes in here. And one thing I want to point out about the percussion is that where it's playing. So check this out. It's mostly we're going to hear it right on the and. So you hear this and it moves left. So this is right. This is left. So this is right again. All right, so just accenting those beats right here. Just bringing us into the beats. So very cool. All right. So moving now to the incidental sounds. So we have the entry. We have the pop with the kind of noisy thing. The 4 we've had in the past where we have that kind of P4 aggro synth. Let's see if that's there, but let's just pay attention, be open to what hits us as sounds. So Popio, that is a 4 that's been playing throughout, so we can copy that from back here. And Let's grab this guy. I'm just going to move it here for now and then go like this. Cool. So I'm not hearing that aggro synth right here. But we do hear that kind of synth right here. Bump, 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 bump. All right, and so this is just another P4. This is kind of a knocky synth, we can call it. So that's playing right here. So he's playing on the offbeat here. Let's just see where else he's playing. So he's not. So it's just right here. So let's go to 16ths. If the grid will frickin' let me. So on the offbeat. So then these two notes as well. This sounds thinner than it did before. Let's check that. Yep. You hear that? Like that's really present. This is now thinner. My only guess for that is that this is the last drop. So we're at the same time of making things huge and exciting, we're also starting to cool down. But we'll see. We'll see. But that is something I noticed that's a little bit chiller, right? It's a little bit more filtered. Kind of this weird rattle sound. Do you hear that? I don't know, noise texture, rattle, whatever the heck that is, but it's there. Almost an effect, but it's just kind of like a texture. Like the resonance on these things is getting a little bit more pronounced as well. We're going to get that noise synth right here again. So that's right here. What about the pop delay? So here we have an edit. So at the 8 bars, so this is just a high pass. So HP. So this is All You Ladies Popio. So is that what was happening back here too? Yeah, it's just, again, it's filtered in a different way, so. And then once again, no jangle. Like the perk jangle was in the beginning, but it just hasn't come back. But we do have the DJ scratch over here. So let's put this guy right there. Maybe the big snare is there. It's kind of, it sounds like there's maybe an accent on it. Cool. So this kind of mimics the structure of the first drop where this is like full on now. Full on. Okay, we got to get the groove over. So I'm just going to do full groove, 16ths and perk. We'll move this over, bass, percussion. So we're still getting the phasey thing, the synth square. Let's check it. Yep, doop. You can hear that. The organ hook is full on. We're getting the pop delay, so I'm just going to copy this over like this. So the delay. We're not getting any additional entries, so that's just right here. And then the neck thing right here. I was hearing a vocal. I was like, what the heck is that? But it's just the vocal texture. Getting the string. You can hear the string up top. So that's cool. So same thing, just really subtle on the punks this time around. And again, I think it's just settling the energy in a way with the hooks because man, we've heard those hooks the whole time, and now it's just interestingly lifting the energy to the max, but at the same time starting to pull back. And the hooks right here are really where it's getting pulled back. So you can hear definitely some kind of vocal reverse. So I'm just going to go like that across the whole thing. And so crash fill, crash roll. So here. And then we have the edit right here with a high pass. And then we have the... And then this is just rep. And then we're going to get the double hit on the snare right here. So all right, cool. So then we're going to get, we got the beat, we got the bass, percussion. So we'll go bring this over because we're getting the full groove again. No ride, of course. We're definitely going to have some accent effects right here. We're getting the vocal texture, so we'll just pull this across. We're still getting the phasery synth, so... But we're not getting the double hit there. We're just going back up and down again. So we're getting that little knocky synth right here. Interesting. So this is just a reverse crash, no effects up. So there we go. Has that been playing elsewhere? Yep, so it plays right here. I missed that. All right. Yeah, it plays here and here. But does it play back here? Yep. Jeez. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've been missing that. So cool. Okay, what about further back here? What the heck? This is amazing. Like, we've been at this for a while. Yeah, this one's going to be well, it already is a long one, but that's, man, like, that's what's crazy. It's like still missing some things. Right there. I have no idea how I didn't hear that this whole time. Crazy. All right. What about over here? I'd be really pissed if I could hear it here. Okay. For crying out loud. I would have picked it up if it was over there. All right. All right, cool. All right, so high pass. We've got the neck vocal. We've got the percussion, the panning percussion. Got a crash. All right. Woo! Man, that was intense. That was a good one. Oh, hold up. We forgot the outro over here. Okay, cool. Yeah, so technically HD3. So HC3 is where you have 3 drops, and it's all about hook drop 3, and you can see it all come together kind of in HC3. But the most important thing for this track to me is one, the little details, like all this movement on the synths, just these little details. This little guy that I didn't find, and that's the thing about doing these maps, like that's what you pick up on, that's what you start to hear in music. Those are the little moments, the little things that maybe an up-and-coming producer wouldn't even be able to hear really in a track as they were listening to it, unless they meticulously sat down like I'm doing now and tried to map it all out. And even then, it's still hard to catch everything. But then not including that in their music is one of the things that doesn't give the level of polish and detail. That said, one of my least favorite concepts is ear candy, because ear candy is a totally random thing to do. Let's just throw some ear candy into a track, and that's what producers think. They think, oh, I need detail, I need ear candy, so they start stuffing their track with a bunch of kind of nonsense, really. And it ruins the experience, because one of the things you'll see again and again and again, and I point it out every time through when I break down punks, is the highly structured presentation of all the sounds in the track. There's a concept of like self-awareness, and I think I may have mentioned it in another breakdown recently. But self-awareness is where the track is just aware of itself, in the sense that one sound is aware of another sound, so they're not going to get in the way. A good example of that is when we were breaking down the break. And here we want to present the vocal. So let's make sure the vocal's clear. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to high pass out the bottom of the snare. So we just have the snare coming in. So the snare's now sitting on top of the vocal because of the high frequencies. And then we also want to bring in the second hook, the secondary hook, which is the organ sound. But we don't want to get in the way of the vocal, so we're going to low pass that. So we're going to high pass the snare, so it's only top end. We're going to low pass the organ, so it's only low mids. And that way the vocal has the full mid-range to present and be audible for the listener. That's an example of self-awareness, right? Because the sounds aren't getting in each other's space. But also, that's kind of more of a spectral or a frequency self-awareness and intentionality. But it's also the placement of sounds, and making sure that the placement of sounds aren't stepping on each other, but then also understanding the highly structured presentation of songs. And that's what punks do for you. Punks you can think of as ear candy, but it's structured ear candy. And and there's a hierarchy to it too, right? So the 8, do something at the 8 because that's exciting. It resets the next 8 bars. If you're going to do something else, then move to the P4. Do something exciting at the P4. Give them something in the groove. Give them something in the hooks, right? And then you can move. We didn't talk about this in this video, but in other videos we've talked about also the 2 and the 6, doing something at the 2 and the 6. And so it's the highly structured presentation. This video, or this track, does a great job of that, because a lot going on, but it all makes sense, and it's all done with a high level of intention and understanding of making sure you're not creating a total mess, right? So leveraging the kind of structured nature of a good track. And then the other thing, the big thing for me, is I just really enjoyed the development of this track, where here in the first hook drop, we get the kind of groove, and then we have the organ, right? So we get a lift with the organ here. And then in the second drop, we get the organ right away, but it's over a strip. So right away, that's 2 elevations over the first hook drop, because we're getting a strip, number 1. And number 2, we're getting the organ coming in right away. The third elevation we're getting is the big entry sound. And then within hook drop 2, we then lift the energy by bringing in all the drums. All right. And then in hook drop 3, we elevate hook drop 3 over hook drop 2. How? By bringing in the full drums. Okay. We get what's it called? The entry, but we don't get the full organ. All right, but it's still an elevation. It's still a step up, because we're getting the full drums. We're getting that nice hook entry. We're also getting these more spot sounds, these more ear candy things, of course, happening at structural moments, so they're more punks. But we're not getting the full organ. But we do have the elevation because of the drums. We are also getting the entry, and we're getting those kind of incidental extra sounds that are very exciting. And then in the last 8 bars, we are Oh, another elevation here is that we're getting the ride right away. All right. And another elevation in HD2 over HD1 is that we're getting the ride. We didn't have that before. But the ride here in the HD2 is a lift over the first 8 bars. All right. And then in the second 8 over here, we're getting the full presentation of the organ. So it's kind of mimicking the structure of the first drop there. And then we get the pull into the outro. And then the another cool thing is the transition. So we're talking about lifts and elevations, like adding sounds to make things more exciting. And one more thing on that before I talk about transitions is producers always want to know, how do I develop my drops? Well, realistically, a lot of times if you're doing like a 2-drop kind of setup, like an HD2 formula, HD1 and HD2 can be identical. They really can, because what separates them is this ocean of a main break and build. And if you're going to take HD1 and move it over to HD2, and HD2 plays, even though from a producer's point of view, you can copy and paste HD1 out of HD2, so it feels like quote unquote cheating, or I should be doing something more, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. From an experience point of view, it's totally different, because HD2, even though it's the same thing in terms of copy-paste from HD1, it's a totally different experience because of what came before it. All right. So again, you can totally get away with just presenting in, like, especially HD2, HD1 and HD2 exactly the same thing. But when producers ask, how can I develop things? Mapping things out like this is how you answer your own question. But then what I just broke down in terms of the lift and the elevation structure, that's how you can develop things, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel, but simply just dropping the organ in the second 8 here, dropping the organ full over a strip in the first 8, and then just giving the full drums in the second 8 with a ride on top. So it's a massive lift. Like, that's a developing move. It's still the same ingredients, but we're just subtly enhancing the energy over time. And then finally, over here is giving the ride off the bat, so front-loading the energy, because the ride brings so much energy, hitting them with the entry, full drums. That's a development. It's a groove development over and above HD2, right? So just listening to tracks, breaking them down like this is how you can answer your questions. Like, how do I develop a track? Well, just listen to tracks and see what they're doing, right? But hopefully me breaking it down gives you a language to understand what's going on at the same time. And then when it comes to transitions, the interesting thing is using atmospheres as transitions. Now, there's other things going on, but that was the one thing that I really enjoyed, was previewing the atmosphere to come, gaining it up so it is a transition, but then previewing the thing, like, what are you transitioning with? Well, it's going to be the atmosphere that's coming up. So you're immediately moving into the space, the upcoming space. That's cool. Another really cool thing was taking that atmosphere and pitching it up as a riser transition out of the hook drop 2, and then letting that atmosphere stay at the higher level as the atmosphere in the third break here. Like, that was really cool. There's some really cool details in this track. Okay, and then I think for the most part, that's it. Is just like looking at the development of it. What about the vocal? Anything interesting with the vocal? I think it's pretty standard. They did go back and forth between these two kind of vocals, where you had this kind of like all you ladies. And so that always played as the 16-bar break, right? So here, all you ladies played right here. As we're moving back towards the drop, this is moving us towards the drop. Same with right here. That vocal's playing as we're moving back towards the drop. Right? Now, some of them are more low pass than others, but that vocal is playing. And then they also had a strip vocal. So here in the second 8 bars, this is a dedicated strip vocal. So when we have a strip in the track, that's the vocal that's playing. Same with here, break 3. So once again, an extremely precise level of organization. It's not random. It's teaching people what to be excited about and expect, right? And so, yeah, that's cool. And so if I was going to recreate this song, or I shouldn't say recreate it, if I was going to use this as an inspiration to start my own song, this is what I would start with. I would look for a vocal that would allow me to have a strip and then a vocal rep. And that would be pretty easy. Like, this is just going back to like classic tracks and just finding a simple vocal. Like, so all of you ladies pop yo, pop yo, pop, pop, all you ladies pop yo, pop yo, pop, pop, all you ladies pop yo. You could definitely find a vocal, chop it up like that. And then same with this one, like just a slightly different vocal from the same song, finding the most catchy parts of it, you know, and then just chopping it up. But where do I chop it up? Well, I have a strip vocal, and I have basically a break vocal. And then that break vocal also serves as punks in the drops. And so that would be my absolute starting point if I was going to go after and make a track like this, is finding a hook that would allow me to kind of play with this structure. And then it would be a matter of just kind of building up the groove around that hook. And then once you have a hook that would be able to fulfill the structure and a groove, you've got the most important things. You've got the drums, you've got the bass, you've got your primary hook. And then it's a matter of just kind of experimenting and playing with different sound design sounds that help with the development, especially in the drops. And from there, like, those are the main ingredients that you would need to kind of make a track like this. And so I guess I'll stop there. This one was really cool. Definitely going to be a memorable one for me, especially in terms of elevations and lifts and developing those over time. So if you got any questions, leave them down below. If you have your own comments, I would love to hear them. Other than that, I will see you in the next video. Peace.